When I was 9 years old, my mother and I went to live with my grandfather for a couple of years in South Alabama. My grandmother had died and Papa was alone, and my dad took advantage of those couple of years to go back to Auburn University to complete his college education. He was a school teacher, had taught for several years on a teaching certificate, but needed the degree. So I didn't see Dad for very much for those 2 years because, well, Auburn was far enough away and money was tight, and so we only saw each other when he came down to Papa's for Christmas and a little bit during the summer. But that first Christmas I remember very well. Dad was home and been home for a couple of days. We had had a slow, drizzly rain the day before, and the woods were damp, and it was cool for Alabama, not cold in that time of the year, just nice. And Dad said, got up that morning, had breakfast, and Dad said, "Would you like to go hunting?" Well, I jumped at the chance. Anything to be with my daddy, however long. And so he got his 12 gauge and we headed off. Now I have to tell you that hunting for my dad meant walking through the woods and enjoying the day. And if we happened to see anything, squirrels mostly, of course, he would shoot one, and that would be good. But it was the walk in the woods. It was the hunting that was the fun. So we walked for a while, and we saw a squirrel, and Dad shot him and put him in his bag, and we were doing that slow walk, enjoying the day. And Dad said, "You know, when I was a boy one time, my dad and I went hunting, and actually we were looking for firewood as much as anything else, but he said we saw this tall tree just about like that one over there, and I looked, and the tree that he was pointing to had a hole in it about, I guess 12, 15 feet up the trunk. And he said, that reminds me of the tree that we saw. He said, it was about that high, a little bit higher, there was a hole in that tree. And my dad said, "You know, I think I'd like, that tree would make good firewood." So we got the saw, and Dad got the wagon and brought it down, and we cut that tree down. Now all the time we were cutting the tree down, I kept wondering if there was a snake in that hole. Well, the tree fell, and we spent the biggest part of the day, of course, trimming the branches and cutting them up, and then we started cutting the trunk into fireplace length logs. We started at the top and started working down. Every once in a while I would look over there, and Dad said, and I wondered if there was a snake in that hole. We got right down to it, and we took the section that had the hole in it and cut it into one fireplace length, and loaded it in the wagon with the rest of the wood, and drove back to the house and unloaded it, stacked it in the wood pile. And he said, and all that time I wondered if there was a snake in that hole. And Dad stopped, and I waited, And he said, let's walk. So we walked for a while longer. There was a squirrel that came out on one of the branches, and as we came up to it, it went around to the back of the tree. And Dad said, why don't you walk around to the back and make him come around the front, and I'll see if I can get him. And I did, and sure enough, Dad shot the squirrel, and it fell down, and he picked it up, put it in his bag, and we just kept on walking. I said, Dad, was there a snake in that hole? Dad said, I don't know. I guess I never thought about it. I pass that story on to you not because it has any profound or deeply significant meaning. I tell it to you to remind myself that it's the story that's important. Now, I can't take you back to the woods in 1940 in Alabama and walk you through the woods with me. You'll have to use your own imagination for that. But I've thought about that story off and on ever since then. And yes, I have to admit, I still wonder if there was a snake in that hole, in the tree that I saw, or that in the tree that my daddy told me about. But when all is said and done, I really don't think that's what's important. I really hope that you enjoy listening to this story half as much as I enjoy telling it.